Hey guys, how you doing today? So, new polling data across America shows that 37% of Americans are willing to secede from the government. Throughout the southern states, in the Republican side of the aisle, that number goes as high as 66%. Independents at 50%. And before we jump and say that, oh, this is a strictly Republican issue, if you go on over to California, 47% of Democrats are calling for secession. This is how the decline of the American empire will actually go, that eventually the populace will simply start to split from a federal government that has abandoned them to military adventurism and the destruction of the human species, frankly. Like, it's not hard to put two and two together on this one. If you are a taxpayer living in Texas or Louisiana or California or any of these places, you get a big sloppy bite taken out of your productivity and your wages, which are abysmally low in the first place. You get a huge chunk taken out by the federal government, and you turn around and you begin to ask, oh, well, what am I getting? What am I receiving? What benefit am I getting from paying the federal government this enormous amount from my paycheck? And it turns out, you know what you get? You get little Palestinian corpses in a genocide in Israel. You get a Yemeni genocide, right? You get concentration camps along the Mexican-American border. You get never-ending war throughout the Middle East. You get threats against successful communist countries like Cuba. You get this constant waste and destruction while you watch your grandparents die due to diabetes because they can't afford insulin. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out that eventually the Americans themselves are going to revolt against this system, and they are going to declare their independence from this unjust, absurdist, corporate, demonic, sociopathic, pedophile-ridden system. That this is how the American empire ultimately collapses. And these numbers, the numbers of people who are calling for secession, is only going to go up. Why? Well, already there is no place in America where a person on minimum wage can afford rent. So if you're a minimum wage worker in America, well, too bad for you. You don't get to pay rent, right? Situations like this, the healthcare situation, are only going to get worse. And we're seeing how the Biden administration is completely incapable of responding rationally to the needs of the populace. They can't even put through a meager infrastructure bill. Like, this is how embarrassing it's gotten for these guys. They can't even put through a bill in order to simply repair things. Imagine if you were living with a boyfriend, and that boyfriend kept telling you, oh yes, I am absolutely going to fix this leaky faucet. I'm absolutely going to do that. Absolutely, that's coming. I just need half your paycheck, dear. Give me half your paycheck and I'll fix that leaky faucet. But instead of going and fixing your leaky faucet, he keeps getting drunk down at the bar and getting into fist fights over and over and over again. How long are you going to stay with this guy? How long are you going to stick around with this guy? If you're one of these people who bounce out of these videos around now, please be sure to like, share, subscribe. My Patreon is down below. Please consider supporting. We need to be supporting leftist voices. And hey, come to my live stream, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got a great community going on here. It's a great time. We go over the day's news. We stand in solidarity as we watch the decline of the American empire, amongst other things. So please think about coming on in. This is a hardly surprising development, and it's one that is only going to continue to get worse for the Americans as their federal government embarks on this obvious plan of abandonment. It's become very clear to anyone who actually has a brain in their head that the strategy of the wealthy and the political class in the American society is one of full-scale abandonment. That there's no other way to describe it. That recently the Federal Reserve was talking about what its plan was for the American populace, and they literally are saying the plan is to ensure that there's a healthy group of homeless people and that we can suppress wages. This is literally the plan for from the Federal Reserve for the American populace, who already can't afford rent, who already can't afford the bare necessities, who already can't afford health care, who already can't afford food and shelter in their own society that claims loudly and constantly that it's the greatest society on the planet. Meanwhile, like small island nations like Cuba feed and shelter all of their people with no difficulty. Communist nations like China have no problem feeding and clothing their populations with little difficulty. What's going on in America? And this flows into what I am beginning to call, and what people in my live stream are beginning to call, the Great Resignation. That people understand that we need to be rebelling from this system in full-scale ways. We understand that we need to be dropping out of the workforce. We need to stop participating with these sociopathic child rapists who go to Jeffrey Epstein's island and spend their money there instead of actually helping anybody with it. We need to stop participating. We need to start rebelling in full-scale ways. That when the economists are talking about a quote-unquote labor shortage, what they are actually talking about is the full-scale rebellion of the populace who is refusing to participate in its own destruction. And we're very aware, we're very, very, very aware that the way that these sociopaths dealt with COVID by just abandoning people in the workforce, calling them heroes, calling them essential workers, while giving them absolutely no increase in benefits, giving them absolutely no monetary incentive to continue on so that they could get infected with a life-risking disease that gets spread around continuously. And we see that COVID, if it wasn't for the vaccine, it would still be persisting in our society. And in fact, the strategy for the capitalists seems very straightforward. Well, there'll always be a little bit of COVID around, right? Well, this life-threatening disease, there'll always be a little bit of it around, because we certainly can't do what's necessary to actually protect the populace, because we're not interested in that. And we can see how they're acting in regards to COVID, and we know intrinsically that this is how they are going to act when it comes time to deal with climate change. That they're not going to look at climate change and go, oh, wow, this is a significant issue with a major crisis that's happening. We need to go in and help people. We need to go in and ameliorate their suffering. No, they're going to retreat into their gated palaces, drink martinis with one another during brunch, and laugh at the destruction that they have caused in the society. These people are sociopaths. They want to hurt people. They get off on misery. How do I know that's the case? Because they keep raping children at Jeffrey Epstein's sex island, right? And let's not pretend like there isn't another one of these. Let's not pretend like, oh, Jeffrey Epstein got suicided, so he's gone, so that means that the show is over. Total fucking bullshit. And so we know. We're aware that we've been abandoned. We're aware that the strategy moving forward is abandonment. And so what are we doing? We're abandoning these guys back. And how are we going to do that? Well, if you live in the United States, one of the plans is to secede, is to simply say to this evil, demonic institution that has abandoned you in large, full-scale ways, we no longer pay taxes to you. We no longer are participating in the wholesale destruction of the planet. We are no longer participating in destroying the world and ourselves. We are no longer part of the United States of America. And when this begins to happen, when this process begins to happen and these chips begin to fall, like, it's very easy to see a state like Texas seceding, and then California, and then Louisiana, and then Arkansas, and the chips fall, and the chips fall, and the chips fall. That will be less revenue for the demonic military system to go and destroy the planet. It will mean that the military will need to regress, to recede, and it will be a collapse on the same level, if not worse than, if not more aggressive than, the fall of the Soviet Union. And I actually think that the major difference is going to be that when the Soviet Union fell, much of Russia actually maintained itself, losing provinces along the outskirts. When the American empire falls, it's very, very likely that it's going to be each state for themselves. It's going to be just an explosion, a cascading effect, because, very simply put, why am I paying to commit atrocities while my family can't get health care? It's a very straightforward proposition, and the Americans are facing up to it in real time, and very soon we will be seeing the consequences of this. Well, that's the end of this video, guys. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe. Think about donating. Think about coming into that live stream, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always got great conversation going on in there. Always remember, right? You are doing really wonderfully. Considering the disaster that neoliberal capitalism has been, consider the wholesale abandonment that the population is undergoing right now. We are doing very well. You're making good decisions for yourself, for the people around you, for your own mental health, for the mental health of people around you. Always remember, you are a divine being standing in divine energy. These capitalists spend hundreds of billions of dollars to gaslight you into believing that you are less than that, instead of spending even a penny in order to help you. Don't let them. Good luck. We're gonna need it.